reading the accessibility statement, other certifications, and then I will turn it over to Charlie to do the roll. So this meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. If you would like this accommodation, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833. The Notice of Non-Discrimination Rights and Protections to Beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is included on this meeting's agenda, is also available on the Old Colony Planning Council website at https://oldcolony.org/. Also, please contact Mary Walden at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you. All right. We're ready for the roll, Charlie?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So representing Secretary Monica Tibbetts-Nutt, Steve Wolfel.
Steve Wolfel representing Secretary and CEO MassDOT, Monica Tibbetts-Nutt here.
MassDOT Administrator Jonathan Gulliver, Barbara LaChance representing.
Good morning, everybody. Barbara LaChance representing Administrator Gulliver.
Thank you. Mayor Sullivan, John Messier representing the mayor.
John Messier representing Mayor Sullivan, City of Brockton.
Thank you. Chair Richard Quinto, Lee Hartman designee today.
Lee Hartman present.
Whitman, Vice Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Dan Salvucci.
Dan Salvucci present with my cat.
Brockton Area Transit, Michael Lambert, Administrator.
I'm here, Charlie.
Thank you. And President of Old Colony Planning Council, Becky Coletta.
Here, Becky Coletta.
Thank you. Chair, we do have a quorum present.
All right, let's move to the next agenda item. Agenda item 2, are there any members of the public who would like to address the MPO today?
So
All right.
Steve, I just
sure.
would like to just make one comment. Charlie Kilmer just recently celebrated 28 years here at Old Colony Planning Council. And I thought before I was going to save it to the end, but for all those little remarks that he said earlier on before we started the meeting, Charlie, as you know, is just a wealth of information. His credibility, his integrity, just his detail oriented. And it's been my pleasure over the last 4 years to be working with him. So my 4 years compared to his 28 years, let's just tell you where all where we feel about Charlie here at Old Colony Planning Council.
Well, as a chair, I think we all agree, and congratulations, Charlie. Although I do think your credibility just took a hit with your spring equinox comment a few minutes ago. But we'll see how that pans out.
But as I like to say, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. So
Exactly. All right, so I don't think other than that we had any public comments, correct? So let's move on to agenda item 3, which are the meeting minutes of February 20th, 2024. Can I get a motion, a second, to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion, Dan Salvucci Whitman.
Lee Hartman second.
All right, any changes or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, Charlie, you want to read the roll?
yes, Steve Wolfel,
Yes.
Barbara LaChance,
Yes.
John Messier,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Michael Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Chair, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 4, which are reports from MassDOT. I think this is where, Barbara, you're going to give updates on projects, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
All right, take it away, Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, some project updates for everybody today. Brockton, first project is Brockton intersection improvements 123 in Plymouth Street. This project is currently at 25%. It is in ICE stage 2 revision 3. We just completed this review for that. Also, the next project is Brockton intersection improvements at 123 Carey and Lyman Street. We have completed PSNE revision 2 for this project. And let's see, next one we have is Stoughton, corridor improvements on 138 from the Canton Town Line to Charles Ave. This is the phase 2 project. PSNE for this review was completed by the district in January. Brockton intersection improvements at Lyman, Grove, Summer, and this includes the replacement of the bridge. The bridge type study and the ice process, I believe Rev 2 for ice stage 1 has been completed. We anticipate the next submission, which is the 75s for this project, in October of this year.
Oh, good.
Easton corridor improvements on 138 at Elm Street. We are waiting on the PS&E submittal for this project. This is Abington intersection improvements at Hancock and Chestnut. It's currently at 25s with the 75s due in June of this year. Kingston Duxbury intersection improvements at the Route 3 ramps and Route 3A, which is Tremont Street. Currently it's pre-25 stage. We did have the scoping meeting and we anticipate the 25% in April of this year. Avon intersection improvements at 28 Spring Street and Harrison Boulevard is currently in pre-25% design also. We anticipate the 25s for this project in April of this year. And the Brockton Abington bike ped improvements on 123 is currently going through the ICE process. We completed the ICE stage 2 revision 1 in February of this year, and we anticipate the 25% plans in April of this year. Next, we have the Hanson corridor improvements, Route 14 from the Pembroke Town line to Indian Head Street. Still waiting for the Sioux to be scheduled for this project. Abington intersection improvements at Randolph Street, Richard Fitz Drive, Chestnut Street, and Old Randolph Street is currently in the pre-25% design stage also, and it's going through the ICE process right now. We just completed ICE 2 revision 2 for this project. We anticipate the 25% plans submission in September of this year. Then we have Hanover corridor improvements on 139 at Main Street, Center Street, and Silver Street. This is at the pre-25% design stage. ICE stage 2 review was completed by the district in February. And we anticipate the 25s for this in October of this year. And we have the Brockton intersection improvements at 123 Pearl Street and Stonehill Street. It's currently in pre-25% design stage. And I believe ICE stage 1 revision 3 is currently under review here in the district. And my last project I have that I want to talk about is the Stoughton intersection improvements at Canton Street, which is Route 27 at School Street and Summer Street. And we have concept designs, I guess, that came in or under review for the which will be discussed, I guess, in the over-the-shoulder meeting, which is scheduled for April of this year. So moving forward with that one also. And that's it for my report today. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Barbara. Anyone have any questions for Barbara about any projects? All right. Thank you. Thanks again,
Thank you.
Barbara. We'll move on to agenda 5, which is the Brockton Area Transit Authority report. Michael, take it away.
Thank you, Chair. My report is mostly based on ridership today. As this board is aware, we are offering fare-free service through May, and that has resulted in a significant increase in ridership. We're now averaging above pre-COVID numbers for weekdays, and then we just had our biggest Saturday in history, or in recent history, this past Saturday. So great news. Feel free to spread the word there, or a good opportunity to try out our service if you haven't already done so. We are also ramping up our PR around our Rockland microtransit service. That is an on-demand Uber Lyft type bus that connects all of Rockland to Abington Commuter Rail, Brockton Hospital, and downtown Brockton. So feel free to reach out to us if you would like more information about that. Any questions?
Any questions for Michael? All right, seeing none, thank you, Mike. All right, we'll move on to agenda item 6, which is the update from Greater Attleboro Taunton Regional Transit Authority. Is anyone here from GATRA or no?
I do not see anyone from GATRA.
All right. If they join, we'll come back to this. All right, we'll move to agenda item 7, which is the federal fiscal year 2024 to 2028. Old Colony TIP amendments. I believe we are on adjustment number 2. So I believe this is you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So some good news. The MassDOT is implementing a statewide wrong-way vehicle detection system in multiple locations throughout the Commonwealth. And 2 of those locations are on Route 3 in Plymouth, at exit 13, which is in the Clark Road area. So if you want to go to the next page. So this shows where those 2 locations in this detection system are going to be excuse me, going to be implemented in our region. So this is great news. This is a location where over the years, drivers have accessed Route 3 going in the wrong direction, and unfortunately there have been some very serious crashes as a result. So this is a very welcomed safety improvement in our region. As such, this does require an adjustment of the existing TIP to program this project into the federal fiscal year 2024 to 2028 TIP. This is an adjustment. It did not require, didn't meet the thresholds for an amendment, so it didn't require a public review and comment period. So it's open for discussion now, and otherwise I'd request that the board endorse the TIP as presented with adjustment number 2 at this time.
So Bill, I know we need to go, but we're gonna do a vote, right? So we do
Right.
need to, all right. So can I get a motion and a second to approve this adjustment number 2? Then we can open to questions.
So moved.
I'll make, okay. Go ahead, whoever's gonna make it.
That
I
was
think-
Becky Coletta.
So
Okay.
Dan, you want to second it?
Sure,
All right, any questions for Bill? All right, seeing none, Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Steve Vogel,
Yes.
Barbara LaChance,
Yes.
John Messia,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes.
Chair, motion carries unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Let's move on to the
Thank you.
next agenda item, which is agenda item 8, which is the federal fiscal year 2025 to 2029. I believe we're going to start TIP development scenarios. So Bill, take it away.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is the time of year where we present potential programming scenarios to the MPO and ask the board to select a preferred set of projects based on these potential scenarios that we develop in-house. And then this preferred set of projects will now be used to develop the actual draft TIP, which would, in next month's meeting, be presented and go out to a public review and comment period. But so the process for this, for those who don't know, so we look at the existing TIP, the status of projects, and then obviously we look at our overall available regional target. We evaluate projects in the universe of projects, see how they score against each other using transportation evaluation criteria. We recently enhanced our scoring criteria, so we're kind of using a new system now. It's a 100-point based system that was presented to this board not that long ago. So today I have 3 scenarios I'm going to present, and then I'd ask the board to then select a preferred set of projects, and I'm available obviously to answer any questions on any of these. So without further ado, this on the screen, this is scenario number 1, if you will. As Barbara mentioned earlier, her report on status of projects kind of leads nicely into all of this. So in 2024, we had a project program in the city of Brockton that was for the intersection of Center Street and Plymouth Street. That project, unfortunately, is not going to be able to be delivered this year, and that created a lot of issues, especially in the front half of the TIP. And So on your screen, you can see where we see a yellow shading. That is where something changed around the existing tip. And these changes were necessary to accommodate that delay in the Brockton project. So I'll just kind of go down the list here. So starting and then the subsequent scenarios I'll present are similar, so I won't go into as much detail on those. So that Brockton project, Center Street at Plymouth Street, that moves out from federal fiscal year 2024 is now programmed 2025. That resulted in that change alone resulted in 2025 as is being over programmed. We had 2 existing projects in 2025. We had you see on the screen there the Brockton project, the Grove Street Bridge project, and then the East End Route 138 project that includes the intersection of Elm Street. As you know, TIP is required to be fiscally constrained. So that meant that we needed to move one of these projects out. So that moves the Brockton project, the Grove Street Bridge project from 2025 out to 2026. And then that in turn overprogrammed in 2026 because we had 2 existing projects in 2026, the Route 3 at Route 3A ramps on the Duxbury Kingston line and the Abington project, the Hancock Street, Chestnut Street. The Hancock Street, Chestnut Street intersection is more advanced in design at this time. So we felt confident keeping that where it is in 2026, and then moving the ramps project out to 2027. So you also see in 2027, the Hanson Route 14 project. This project is very unlikely to be able to program in 2027. As Barbara mentioned, I was still waiting on the scheduling of the SUE. And there's just been a lot of issues with this project. So the recommendation from TIP writing the days was to move this project out to at least 2028. As 2028 was already fairly programmed out, at least in scenario 1, we moved it to 2029. And then so you can see in 2028 those projects remain the same. They stay where they are. The Hanover's Center project, Route 139 at Main Street. Excuse me. And then the Route 123 at Pearl Street and Stonehill Street. We keep those in 2028. And then we did have a little bit of room left in 2029. So we took a project from our university project that does score fairly well and does have a lot of community and regional support behind it. The intersection project in Stoughton, which is Park Street, Route 27, and Turnpike Street. So we are able, under scenario 1, we're able to program that in 2029. So without assistance from the Commonwealth in 2025 for those projects, this would be the scenario. And keeping Hanson keeping Hanson programmed, this was basically the one scenario that we were able to do. So we're only able to program 1 new project, which is better than none. But then, so that's scenario 1, and scenario 2 and 3, which I'm going to talk about now. We looked at scenarios where we remove Hanson Route 14 from programming at this point. The thought process behind that is, so there are a lot of issues with this project. You know, as mentioned, the SUE is yet to be scheduled, but then there are a lot of questions with the overall funding for the remaining design of this project, and then also just the water line itself that the SUE is required to look at. That I think it's 124 years old. The the water utility. It's highly likely that the sewer is going to say that line needs to be replaced, but that is not a tip eligible expense. And the owners of that water utility, the Abington Rockland Water District, have said repeatedly that they do not have the funding at this time to replace that line. So that would be another issue that needs to be overcome before this project advanced. So yeah, as you'll see in scenario 2 and scenario 3, now we look at what the tip would look like if we did not, if we remove that from programming at this point. And to say remove from programming, that's not deactivating the project. If things were to change considerably and this project started to move forward at a better pace than it has since to this point, then when we're here a year from now, you can always reprogram this. But so scenario, want to go to the next page. So this is scenario 2. So this is that scenario where we look at removing Hanson Route 14 from programming at this point. With this, basically, this is almost a one-for-one change, or one-for-one replacement. We have this project in Easton. It's 3 intersections between Washington Street, Turnpike Street, and Purchase Street. If you're familiar with the area, it kind of forms a triangle within about a quarter-mile space from each other. This is a project that scores really well from a safety perspective. It's had fatal crashes over the years. It's also, from a system preservation standpoint, it also scores fairly well. That area could use some love in terms of infrastructure replacement. So this project scores well, and this would be an opportunity to get this into the tip at this point for 2029 in place of Hanson Route 14, and then we're still able to keep that Stoughton project, Park Street Route 27 at Turnpike Street, also in 2029, and then the beginning of the front half of the tip remains the same as scenario 1. And if you want to go to the next one. So this is scenario number 3. So this is the third and final scenario that we prepared in-house for consideration today. This one, so this, instead of the Easton project, which the Easton project is a fairly expensive project, this one, instead of that, we're able to program 2 projects. So we're able to program Hanover, intersection improvements at Route 53 in Columbia. Route 53 in Broadway. That's a very high volume, high crash location. Scores pretty well. And then in East Bridgewater, Route 18 at Highland Street, we're able to program that project under the scenario. And this is a project that has a lot of early momentum behind it, a lot of community support, and scores well. So that would be. So scenario 3, very similar to scenario 2, with the exception of instead of programming 1 project, in the case of scenario 2 of the Easton project, in this case we can program 2 new projects along with the Stoughton project. So overall 3 new projects for scenario 3. And then so those are the scenarios that we program in-house for the local regional targets. If you just want to, before we get into selecting a preferred set of projects, if you want to go to the next page, Sean. So this is just to give you an idea. So the state also develops their preferred, not preferred. The state has identified the projects that they're picking up in the region under the statewide program. So this is a listing of those projects. So you can see a lot of great projects. The phase 2 of Route 138 in Stoughton from the Canton Town Line down Lincoln Street, that's being picked up. that's great. That'll create continuity with the rest of the project. And then in Pembroke, not Pembroke, I'm sorry, in Duxbury, they're picking up Route 53 at Franklin Street. This has been a very high crash location with serious crashes over the years. It's been a high priority for the town, so we're very excited to see that picked up by the state. And you see some bridge projects in West Bridgewater, for example, the 4th Street Bridge over the Setauket River. In the so these are the statewide projects, and these are fairly. I did have a question. That came into me this morning about these projects. These are fairly stable projects. They're in terms of funding and design. See the Duxbury Bridge project, the Powder Point Bridge. That's the one mega project in this listing. That's programmed over multiple years. So if so I would at this time I'd open up to questions about scenarios 1 through 3, and if there's anything I can help the guide this board's decision in selecting the preferred set of projects at this time. I'm happy to answer those questions.
So, thanks, Bill. So, Bill, is there a staff preferred scenario?
Yep. Conferring in-house, I think, we like scenario 2 and scenario 3 a lot, but scenario 3, we being able to program 3 new projects, and also creates some geographic parity in the region, because we program a project Hanover, which is obviously on the eastern half of our region. We have quite a few projects between Brockton and Easton on the western half of our region. So we kind of, with scenario 3, we kind of have that geographic equity where we're kind of spreading it out a little bit. We just program 3 new projects, which go a long way to satisfying the performance goals, and a PM1 for safety and PM2 for system preservation, with projects in 3 different areas. So scenario 3 would be our preferred from a staff perspective, our preferred scenario at this point.
All right, members, what do folks think?
Lee Hartman, I would agree. It's nice to have it in 3 different communities, so I would support scenario 3.
Others?
Why not? Yeah.
But I'll make a motion that we support scenario 3.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second that, Dan.
Any other comments or questions? Barbara, do you want to weigh in at all? Or are you comfortable with what is in scenario 3?
Yeah,
I'm comfortable.
If I could too, I would just clarify that to say that if we see some significant movement on the Hanson project, that we come back and revisit it. But at this point, with what we have, I think scenario 3 is the one to move forward with.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. I also have a question on that Hanson project, because I can remember when Don Howard presented that to the Joint Transportation, and it took them a while to get it on the TIP program, but they just haven't done anything about it. I was just wondering, what is the condition of Route 14, the street? I mean, is it in very poor repair and need to be just resurfaced, or it just, I know the project was to dig it right out and replace the pipes and things, and that's what's holding it up financially.
Yeah, I mean, so I can answer that a little bit, because I actually drive that roadway, ride that roadway, I should say, with my wife 3 days a week, going to work in Marshfield. So there are points where it's in fairly rough shape. There's one part with it's pretty low lying, and over the winter with all the rain we had, it did take a beating, I noticed. And then there are other areas of the corridor that aren't in this bad shape, so I think it varies depending on what point exactly you're looking at. But then my understanding too is that even depending on whether water line that close to the roadway, or when I'm sorry, with a water line and that's that old and potentially that weak, even a simple a mill and overlay, which would be kind of a patch job at this point.
Yeah.
That can be create a lot of risk to a water line that's old that old if it's close enough to the surface of the roadway.
So it seems the only time that's gonna finally get repaired is if there's a broken pipe.
Yeah, I mean
And
that's
have
kind
to
of
do it.
yeah, that's kind of the
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's just the way things go with a lot of towns. They don't have the they don't have the funds necessarily to replace all the water lines that they'd like to replace, and so it's usually a case. I mean, every time I know of, it's usually a case when, well, if a section breaks, then we'll replace it. But we don't have the funds to replace a 2-mile section of water main at this point. So
Right. Cause I have to call Don Howard and let him know that the project's gonna, it's a dead issue until they come up with the monies to replace what needs to be replaced so it can be done in the proper way.
yeah,
I
and
think-
as Lee
Well-
said, if things do change and suddenly this is resolved and hey, who knows, that they could do the SU and the SU could say, yeah, the water line is great shape. We don't need to replace it.
Yeah.
If things are to change, then as you know, we develop this tip every year.
Yeah.
So a year from now, we can easily reprogram this project, and that's it's never a scenario it's never a situation we'd like to be in where we're taking something out of the 5-year tip. As you recall, a couple years ago, we were in this. Actually, I think it was last year. We were in this situation with the city of Brockton. There was a project that just wasn't moving forward, and we took it out of the 5 years for now, with the understanding if things change, we can put it back in. So, unfortunately, with a project this big, and if it's not moving forward, what happens is it does create a roadblock, for lack of a better word, and other projects moving forward, which then isn't ultimately isn't fair to the remainder of the region.
Yeah. Okay. I'll let Don Howard know.
All right,
Thank you.
Becky?
I think we need to be clear with Don and with Hanson though and with ourselves, that part of the issue with this line is that it's not Hanson who needs to come up with the money to
Right.
fix the line. It's really Rockland Abington, as I understand it.
Correct.
And so that's part of the issue, is that the people who would have to pay to replace the line are not the same people who would benefit from the road work. So, whatever we can do to try to help them navigate, and I know OCPC has also helped to bring in some state money for the review of the SUI analysis. So that maybe that'll get it started, because at least then we'll be dealing with some facts to look at what needs to happen. But Dan, I just want to make sure that if you're talking to Hanson or to Don, that he understands the
Right, he
issue is in
does.
part.
Yeah.
Okay,
And just for
Yeah, but-
clarification, Senator Brady's office was the one who had filed the amendment for
the
funding.
100,000
Correct.
funding.
Yep, thank you.
All right, just a comment. When we had Route 18 and 27, 18 and 14 project in motion, the section of Route 18 and 27 had our main pipes and sewer pipes that needed to be replaced. And even though they were not broken, they were digging up that intersection, and we decided, the town, that it's the proper time to do it, was the original pipe. And why would we not do it with the road being dug up? So we went forward, the town paid for it, we went forward and had it done, just to be safe, because
Mhm.
you don't want a major infrastructure to fail. And then all of a sudden you're shorthanded. I mean, it needs to be done ASAP. And that's why we had that main pipe replaced, even though there was no issue with it, but it was the original and it was years and years and years of the old fashioned piping. And we went forward and had it done to make sure that it'll be there for the future. So I think that's where you have two towns, that are falling short of thinking of future problems that they may have with original piping. My opinion.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, so depending on how we vote and how the tip season unveils over the next couple months, obviously the OCPC, if you could bring everyone together, if this ends up being the action, obviously it'll be kind of a kickstart for people to think about the project a little bit differently and get everyone to the table. So, all right. Any other comments before I have Charlie do the roll?
Chair, I
Yep.
would just add, it's not the towns themselves, it's the water district
Oh,
represented
Right.
by the Abington Rockland Water District. So it's this independent body.
makes it even easier, Charlie.
It's the independent entity
That is
that's
true.
responsible for the water line. And to Bill's point, I would add that it's technically not coming out of the tip itself as a approved project per se with a 6-digit ID number. It's just coming out of the funding cycle. And
Right.
it's poised, like it's circling the airport, waiting to land once they get this water line thing sorted out. It's not going away in its entirety. It's just not in the programming cycle.
Correct.
Yeah, Charlie, but if that water line fails, who pays for not having water? Both Rockland and Abington?
Well, there's got to be an MOU with the towns with the water district, whether it's the towns that have to fix a particular section within their town, or is it the water district itself that incurs the cost? I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I know Hanson has water towers,
Right.
but and of course Whitman, we're Silver Lake, so all right, yeah, it's a shame. Okay.
All right. Any other comments?
Hi, it's Barbara.
Barbara.
I just wanted to say about the 3 projects that would be added in for scenario 3, that the East Bridgewater project and the Hanover project are both currently in the ice stage, which is preliminary pre-25s. And the Stoughton one is basically still at just the approved stage, so we haven't started moving forward with that one yet. So just to give you a little status of where those 3 projects are.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. All right, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Yes, Steve Vopel,
Yes.
Barbara LaChance,
Yes.
John Messia,
Yes.
Lee Hartman,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci,
Yes.
Mike Lambert,
Yes.
Becky Coletta.
Yes,
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right.
Unanimous.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Bill.
Thank you, everyone.
Going to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 9, the federal fiscal year 2025 Old Colony Unified Planning Work Program Development. Charlie, I believe this is you.
Yes, Chair. With your permission, though, I would like to go back to the roll call. In my exuberance for celebrating the spring equinox, I forgot to call the ex officio MPO members. So Joy Singh, Federal Highway Massachusetts Division Administrator.
Joshua
Josh Barber. Thank
Barber here, representing Joy Singh, Federal Highway.
Great, thank you. Peter Butler, FTA Region 1 Administrator. Don't believe Peter's here. And Noreen O'Toole, Chair of the Joint Transportation Committee. Okay, thank you. And we'll make sure that's reflected in the minutes as well.
All right,
Forward.
thank you, Charlie.
Yep.
So you all set to take over for UPWP, Charlie?
Yep. Okay, so one of the items that we're working on right now is development of the federal fiscal year 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. The work program is a scope of work and budget for the transportation staff of the MPO for the upcoming 12 months beginning in October. And as part of our TIP development process and the UPWP process, which is this item, we like to certainly consult with the communities and the MPO itself on specific projects and ideas that the board might have. So we could go to the next slide. One of the things completed by Ray Garino and Coach Chung Lee of our staff in 2022 was the high priority quarter screening assessment project. And that really helped to inform our draft universe of projects that we take a deep dive into when we're developing the next UPWP. And what's on your screen today is a listing of about 25 projects, most of which were identified in that quarter screening assessment. And it's stratified alphabetically by community, and it's highlighted every other community. And what we have here in the italicized text is projects that were identified that may have had a recent quarter study or some type of project under design or development for the TIP or recently implemented through the TIP. So as you can scroll through, for example, project number 4 on the list is Bridgewater, Route 18. So as an example, that's italicized because there was the Route 18 corridor study done in the 2023 UPWP. So that wouldn't be something that we would entertain doing another quarter study on since it was just done. But as you go through the list, for example, like item number 5, Oak Street in Brockton, there hasn't been a recent project in design nor a recent corridor study. So that would be kind of like one of the ones we might be looking at to include in the upcoming UPWP. And as you scroll down, there were projects done in Brockton, such as the Main Street corridor study that Ray Garino was the lead on, or the Route 27, basically from Reynolds Memorial Highway down to Court Street, Main Street. There was a TIP project in that area in recent years. So that's more in the monitoring phase. Though we've seen a little bit of an uptick in a crash history along that corridor. If you can pan down just a little bit, like in East Bridgewater, similar to Bridgewater, there's the Route 18 corridor study under development. And then the number 14 is the Kingston Route 3A, Route 53 corridor study, which is currently ongoing right now. So if you go to the next slide. And here, Pembroke, for example, Route 36, there was a TIP project underway in the area north of Route 27, and the town itself is doing the portion south of Route 27. So we wouldn't certainly propose to do a corridor study right now, but that would be in the more of a monitoring phase. And I note the bottom section, 22, 23, and 24, those are like regional wide studies. The first being the road safety audits at multiple locations. Next being a major bottleneck identification study. We haven't done one of those in a while. And something new to this list is one of the items is a resilience improvement plan. And this would align with the PROTECT program, discretionary grants. So that might be a consideration for the staff to undertake development of such a plan. So we just wanted to share this list with you and get some initial feedback. If there are particular areas that the MPO would be interested in having a study on, or things that we might have missed that should be on this list. So we'd like to open it up to the floor for, initial feedback and consultation, and note that as we're developing the UPWP, this would be element 3000 itself, where we list the discretionary regional studies that we do. Of course, there's others, regular things in the UPWP itself, such as development of TIP or our public participation program or our Title VI efforts.
All right, folks have initial feedback for Charlie.
Charlie, just for people's perspective, when do you need to have their feedback by? If not today?
Yes, Mary, that's exactly right. It's kind of on a rolling basis, and kind of our milestone for developing a draft UPWP and bring it back to this board for a review and release to a public comment period would be in May. So we have about at least 2 months to go to think about it, and add in studies. So, we're working behind the scenes to develop a short list of what we would like to undertake from a staff perspective. And one of the things we'd like to do is check in with the MPO at each of your meetings between now and the time the draft is actually developed to, gauge input and share with you what we're thinking. So.
I have a question for Charlie, if I may.
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, thank you. Charlie, how often does either MassDOT or towns look at signage on roads that are either outdated or unnecessary at this point, but are just left there? I'm thinking Route 18 in the Bridgewater, 106, where it says right lane for right turn, and everybody's in the right lane, goes straight. And it blocks the traffic up. I'm just wondering if it would be a good idea to look at signage that for today's traffic studies are improper and just old.
Well, I would say at the outset, it depends, quote unquote, on the entity and the municipality. For example, in a town or MassDOT, they might have a sign management plan, just as you see like a pavement management system. Municipalities and or MassDOT or entities might have a sign inventory management system where they have a GPS inventory and condition of each sign in their specific district. And
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest, to the extent that each municipality would have that. I know some do and some don't. And to your point about, I think what it is modifying an existing sign, and that would require a study and an engineering analysis, perhaps, if you're changing the signage, whether through an on-call consultant or a MassDOT engineering division itself to assess any traffic changes. That sign that you're referencing, is that more of a newer intersection with?
No, it's an old intersection
Yeah.
that sign's been up there for 1,000. I've been around
Right.
in this area for 47 years. It's the same sign that's there. And it's a lot of people get in the right because if somebody takes a left, it ties up the left lane, but it's only Route 18. It's just not wide enough for the amount of traffic that's increased over the last, 35, 40 years. So I think the sign is kind of outdated, my opinion.
I'm just reading what Ray wrote. Dan, we can also ask our signage folks, Ray, so we can next meeting back to you on that, just answer that question. Because I don't know if we have I know we have a signage program. I know that we review stuff. I don't know how often and stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll find out for you. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Just my observations.
All right. Other thoughts on the universal projects for the UPWPA? Any thoughts? All right. So I guess, Charlie, we need to let people take a look at this. So as Mary brought up, this will be kind of a rolling feedback to you. So people should reach out to Charlie and give them their thoughts, ideas, whether these or any other ideas that might be out there. As we start off developing the UPWP. Charlie, is there anything else we have to go over with the UPWP, or is this what you wanted to do today?
That concludes what we wanted to cover with the MPO today.
All right, thanks, Charlie. So why don't we move on to the next agenda item? All right, when agenda item 10, administrative matters, other business, and date and time of next meeting. Charlie, got stuff?
Yes, thank you. So one of the items we have for the MPO today is the Division of Ecological Restoration has a culvert grant program out there, and this is some information for you, and that there's a web link in the staff report, and we did post the staff report to the chat, so you can grab the hyperlinks there as well. And I believe on the next page, the Applications are due
April 12th.
on the 12th of April, so this has been a popular program over the years, and we encourage the community to take a preview of this to see if you can take advantage of this program.
And Charlie, this will also be in our upcoming newsletter as well. You submitted that for an article. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Hey, and speaking of the tip, those interested in developing a project, UMass Transportation Center is having 2 virtual classrooms on the Massachusetts Project Intake Tool. Note the dates are May 7th and May 16th. They are having ones this month, but I believe they're full. So register early, and as this is a very popular program to get on board with what the system is. And I note that this has come a real long way over the years from the initial sending in paper forms, you know, PNFs and PIFs, and now it's a digital environment. So this is really streamlined and added a lot of efficiency into the process. So good opportunity here to attend and learn more. Next slide. Hey, and this is something we've shared with the MPO in the past, and just note that the Healy administration has formed a federal funds infrastructure office, and this is a forum where communities and partners can come together to work with the Healy administration to work together and get more information on how they can apply for some of these federal discretionary grants. And there's a lot of resources and information and brain capital out there that it can help the communities along the way. So there's some hyperlinks in the staff report there. Next slide. And here's a listing of our upcoming meetings for the MPO. I note that April 16th through June 18th are kind of bookended for the development of the 3C documents. We expect the tip to go out for public review in April and endorse potentially in May, and the UPWP to go out for public review in May and endorse in June. And beyond that, those are hold the dates, as there might be additional tip amendments or UPWP amendments or long range plan amendments that may be needed or other business. But that's what I have for the folks today. Certainly open to any questions.
Any questions for Charlie? I just reiterate, like I usually do around this time of the year, that we're starting to get into the 3C document certification. So we need to try to make sure we have quorums for all these meetings. So please try to make sure you can attend these meetings. The only thing I will add as a administrative matter is for folks, I'm surprised, Charlie, you don't have it down here, is the innovation conference for the first time ever. We had to close registrations. We're already at capacity without even put a program. We're hoping to open it up for a short time for in-person. But right now people can register virtually, but I don't know what's happening this year, but it's like more popular than ever.
Yeah. So yeah, I noticed that we did have in the last couple MPO meetings as an advertisement.
Right.
We are attending virtually. So, you know, we're thankful to MassDOT for all the efforts on the innovation conference, and we're huddling yesterday, as a matter of fact, on the ideas for the innovation award. So
Excellent. All right. Anyone else have any matters before I call for adjournment? All right, seeing none, we'll move to the last agenda, which is adjournment. Can I get a motion and second to adjourn?
I'll motion Dan from Whitman. Come on, Lee.
All right, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. Go enjoy the snow. That's bound to happen now, thanks to Charlie later this week. And I will see you all next month. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah.